Okay, have you ever written off a relationship by maybe labeling the other person as too needy or maybe too distant? Well, if you take a closer look, underneath those labels are attachment styles. And underneath those attachment styles, we likely could find a childhood experience that shaped us to the core. My next guest says understanding our own attachment style will lead to more emotional security and maturity in our relationships. Marriage and family therapist Tammy Hill is joining me to explain. It's so great to meet you. Welcome to Studio 5.
Thank you.
I've heard of this vaguely, but never taken a deep dive or a deep look into what it is. How important do you feel it is for people to understand attachment style?
To me, it's the basis of my therapeutic model.
Really?
Everything, I think, bases back to how secure we are attached in childhood.
I imagine a lot goes into this. Can you give us a baseline definition? What is an attachment style?
Attachment is really your context for how you relate to yourself and other people in the world. I like to think of it a little bit like the rules of a game, that you figure out this game and you play the rules, but someone else might be playing from a whole different set of rules because of what they grew up in versus what you grew up in.
But playing the same game, or trying to.
Trying to play the same game, but having totally separate rules to live by.
I can see how this would affect maybe your own view of the world, right? Or your lens towards your relationships. Can you elaborate on how it might affect our relationships, our connections with people we love?
Oh, yes. The way that we are parented as children, especially in the first 5 years of life, will largely determine our ability to connect romantically in adulthood.
Now hold on. How I'm parenting my 1-year-old, my 2-year-old, my 3-year-old will come back to how they're able to meet and marry? Really?
We used to think it was all just in childhood, but we've come over the last 20 years to know that no, what's happening here impacts adulthood a lot.
Wow. Well, first of all, I feel big pressure as a parent.
Yeah.
Second of all, I think there's huge curiosity then around how that might have played out, right, in our own lives. Let's jump into the 4 different attachment styles we can identify with. Maybe you can give us some examples along the way of how you've seen these play out in people's lives. First, a secure attachment.
Secure attachments are children that come from homes where parents responded. If they were crying or they had needs, parents were there, they soothed, they helped them understand what they were feeling. But they were available to their children. And these children, about 50% of us in the population are securely attached.
This sounds like a positive thing.
Yeah, that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
About half of us. And we can move into adulthood and connect with others. We are willing to share vulnerable emotions and connect with one another in ways that are healthy.
These people aren't afraid of intimacy. They depend on others, but they're not totally dependent. Describe that balance.
Yeah. Well, you're differentiated, meaning you do you, but you're not going to be reactive to what someone else is doing in your life.
Of course, this doesn't mean I'm not going to have relationship bumps, I'm sure, or challenges, but fair to say someone with this attachment style is suited to connect with someone in a healthy way.
Very much so. And even, we all have a little bit of all types of attachment within us, but primarily securely, I feel like I'm a securely attached person. And my late husband passed away really unexpectedly of a heart attack. And now I've remarried, and when my husband leaves, I feel that anxious attachment of, wow, even though I feel secure, is he going to come home? Because I had a husband not come home once. And so it can harken to different parts of ourselves.
So you mentioned that anxious attachment. Describe that.
Anxious attachment were children who, when they were young, the parents were kind of hit and miss. Sometimes they were emotionally available, and other times they really weren't. And so they don't know what to anticipate. And these people grow up into adulthood really needing reassurance. Sometimes they're labeled as the needy or the clingy friend that's always pursuing, and sometimes getting a little bit exhausting.
Sure, kind of wears you out, that kind of friend or that individual. I noted that you list someone with an anxious attachment style as perhaps feeling like a partner doesn't care, that can linger with them. Maybe they felt that when they were younger, and that carries through no matter how doting or attentive the partner may be. They still feel that kind of desperation.
They still feel that desperation that, wait a minute, I need you, and you're not talking to me, or you're not helping me emotionally right now. From being a child, where they felt like they were making a bid for connection with a parent that was unavailable. in adulthood, you feel like you're making bids to your partner, and maybe they are being available, but your insecure attachment leads into the anxiety around that. Perhaps they're really not caring as much as you think they should.
Two more attachment styles to talk about, but this kind of begs the question, can I unlearn this or can I live around this? I'm sure awareness is helpful.
Awareness is huge.
Yeah, just knowing why you're feeling what you're feeling. But do you see clients or do you see individuals able to kind of overcome this anxious style?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that doing good work with a therapist, and I think that work, if you're married and in a relationship, you need to come together to therapy, work together. Even though maybe one person is showing more of an identified patient look, relationally it impacts the whole and the system. So you need to work within the system.
Tammy, tell us about avoidant attachment.
Those were children who, when they were young, their parents were not emotionally available to them. They provided for them the necessities of life, but weren't necessarily emotionally available. So these children often learn to self-soothe on their own, to take care of their own needs emotionally. They withdraw from people because that's what they're most comfortable with and familiar with. Yeah. And do their own kind of work independent of others. They prefer not to try to emotionally connect, although deep down they want to emotionally connect.
Do they know that? Do they feel that?
They don't know that, but we're born with the innate desire to attach.
Independence is an interesting characteristic that strikes me from this attachment style. I mean, fair to say you could be an otherwise, healthy, connected individual, but maybe have that over-expression of independence?
Independence is a wonderful thing, but more of not needing someone else to emotionally engage with me.
I see.
I'm emotionally independent from you.
Emotionally independent, gotcha. Disorganized attachment, tell us about this one.
Thank heavens it's only about 5% of the population.
Okay.
But it's people who have a lot of times come from homes with addicts or personality disorder parents where there's not been any type of consistent parenting going on that's been helpful, sometimes anxious, sometimes avoidant. These individuals grow up and are really disorganized in their relationships.
I'm going to ask you a big question for the humble 1 minute we have left together, but understanding these 4 attachment styles, how can we then parent our children to feel secure and confident in how they connect?
This is such an important question. Being available to our children, listening. We don't have to agree with what they say, but being there and let's just be a sounding board as they process things. One thing I really would like to see more parents do is to not base their own happiness on their children's behavior, but to own their own, differentiate yourself from your child's life and be happy on your own, work on your own happiness without making it their responsibility to make you happy.
Wise words. Thank you for sharing. I know just a portion of a really big topic with us today. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much. Where can people find more insight from you?
Well, I have a website, tammyhill.com, Instagram, tammyhilllmft. I host my own podcast, Live Your Why. Those are some places you can find me.
We'll connect with you there. Thank you again.
Hey, thank you.